sum up the situation. So again, guys, very lucky to have this guy here.
Yeah, Butch says the same thing about me. In fact, I think that's the only reason he kept me around is that I made him laugh now and then.
Aw. Now we've been asking for questions on social media, and you guys have been sending them in. So why don't we take some now? This one is Nikki Colby on X asking, can you describe the suits in depth to me as a blind person? Also, what does it look like inside the Starliner?
Well,
1 hour and 55 minutes.
Well, Nick,
ECS, LC.
ECS?
Adjust the ISA temperature to 145 degrees Fahrenheit.
Roger.
well, Nikki, that's a great question. How do you describe a spacesuit? Well, it's made out of cloth and some puncture-resistant material. I think a lot of it's Nomex. And on the inside of this suit, and it's really it's all like almost one piece. There's a reason for that. Because it has to hold pressure, right? So it's kind of like a hoodie on top that the visor can float go over your head like a hood, and then you can zip it. And it's a one piece overall that has long sleeves and long legs. And of course, it doesn't matter what color it is. Boeing chose the Boeing blue color for it. It has a few pockets on it. And at the bottom, it actually, where the legs come out, is actually a rubber bladder that goes throughout the entire part of the spacesuit, and so our feet go inside there. And then our feet also, they put boots on top of our feet, but we don't need the boots to remain pressurized. So all we need to do once we are inside of our suit is put on our gloves. There's a left glove and a right glove, obviously, and there's a small wrist ring that you have to kind of click the glove on and turn to the left or turn to the right to make sure it's locked. And then we put our hood on, right, our visor or helmet, and then we have to put our head back and zip it across, and then all of a sudden we're hermetically sealed inside of a spacesuit, and we can do our pressurized leak checks, and it can protect our lives. It's comfortable. It's very lightweight. I think Megan and Dee have the specs.
Go ahead.
Step 200 L2 balloon cycle task is complete.
Roger.
I think we have the specs on the suits, but it's a very lightweight suit, especially compared to the suits that we've worn before. And when I moved from the shuttle program to go fly on the Soyuz, I was very impressed with the Soyuz suit. And these these suits built by David Clark are even lighter than the Soyuz suit because the Soyuz uses a helmet.
And then Nikki also asked about describing what it looks like in the Starliner. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yes, Starliner. It's interesting. It is I don't say full of cargo, but it's there's a lot of there's two seats near. If you look inside the hatch on the left-hand side, there's two seats. And Butch sits the one on the farthest away, and then Sonny sits on the next one. There's two other seats that we're going to use for future flights. This time we have cargo on them. The cargo come in these soft bags. We learned from Space Shuttle program that you can put more stuff into flexible bags than to metal containers. So we have these flexible bags called cargo transfer bags, or CTBs. And Boeing cargo bags are all blue, and the NASA cargo bags are all white, so we can easily tell the difference. And on the outside of the bags are labels. So we have bags strapped around the cabin. Butch and Sonny right now are sitting on their backs with their legs a little bit above their heads in a 90-degree position, and this is provides crew safety for launches and landings.
Those were both very detailed. That was a great answer to that question. And again, Nikki, thank you for asking that. We also have Lizzie Versett on Instagram asking, what is the coolest part of the launch in your eyes, Mike?
Oh, so everybody asks about launch, right? Because that's how does it feel? And sometimes I think people are asking, how does it feel for launch, like all the G forces?
Sure.
We only get up to 3 Gs in these things. And
Only.
Yeah, well,
only, guys.
if you've flown high performance jets like Butch and Sonny and the rest of us, 6 or 7 or 9 Gs are
Sure.
a lot. So 3 is quite manageable, especially with these comfortable seats that are built for that. So that's not the feeling, but the feeling of having your dreams come true, going into space with the whole world cheering you on, and all the representing the hopes and dreams of all the people that worked really hard on this mission and putting the rocket together, putting together the spacecraft and the mission controllers and the management, the people that put in a lot of time to make this mission happen. It is in that you're all part of it right there. It's a very emotional event, and of course I'm a Air Force guy and I don't talk about emotions a lot, but launch is definitely an emotional event.
Yeah, that's a great distinction because you're right. I think when people think feel, or ask about feel, it's answering physically how you feel, but really emotionally is quite overwhelming as well, or can be. Emmett Reese on X asks, what will the crew be doing during their stay on the ISS?
Well, Megan, you mentioned that we're looking at somewhere around an 8 to 10-day mission for Butch and Sunny, and most of the time on the ISS, they're going to be working for Starliner, doing some testing with Starliner and certification. Right? We're going to see what it's like to take out the cargo, put in down mass cargo, things that need to come down. We're looking at seeing how to set up the inside of Starliner for in case there's emergency aboard the International Space Station. Now, for Butch and Sunny's mission, chances are really small, but for a long duration mission, we do have to set up things like an ammonia sensing kit and a few other things that are standard for all the other spacecraft that visit the space station, and we just want to see how it works with Starliner. We also, they're going to pretend that Starliner is a safe haven, which is a 24-hour lifeboat that they can hang out on the space station in case there is emergency aboard space station, and that helps certify saying Starliner is ready for long duration missions. And so Butch and Sunny and along with the rest of the team are going to get this flight test data.
Yeah, and you detailed some of them, but there's a total of 87 flight test objectives and many more operational capability checkouts that Boeing is looking to complete through Starliner's crew flight test. Dee, I know that the team will be watching each one very carefully, collecting data, analyzing that, again, on the road to certifying
Slick on
Starliner.
channel 1. Go ahead. Ready for hatch closure and pre-launch leak checks.
Roger. Proceed with hatch closure.
Fantastic call out there.
That's right, Megan. You mentioned
SRB ignition enabled.
Verify FCO, RCO, and OSM whole fire switches are in their proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
All right, we're going to send it over to NASA's Daryl Nail at Hangar AE. Daryl.
All right, thank you very much. And getting a final look at the weather, I could tell you this, it's a beautiful day to fly. Outside, our launch weather officer told us that there's no change in the forecast. We are 90% go, and what a beautiful shot of our beaches here from the courtesy of our chopper team here at the Kennedy Space Center. Folks coming out to enjoy the launch and an amazing day. Weather, no changes again. Low-topped cumulus clouds on land, which you see some of it there, but because they're low-topped, that's not a concern. When a rocket flies through a big, thick cumulus cloud, it can trigger a lightning strike, but those clouds are not the kind that can do that, according to Launch Weather Officer Melody Lovin. And so we're good to go there. We also have a launch visibility is always a factor here in the southeast. Can you see the rocket and from where? And our friends at United Launch Alliance provided us with this graphic so you can see about which point in the launch you would see the rocket. If you're within the first two inner circles, you should be able to see the solid rocket boosters jettison a minute after launch. Folks in the Orlando and Central Florida area will be able to see it about 90 seconds of flight, and then it will come into view for much of the rest of the state after more than about 2 minutes, including Tampa on the west coast of Florida. The southeast corner of Georgia might be able to see the Atlas Centaur separation, which happens after 3 minutes of flight. Again, we're looking good here at the ASOC. Richard Jones polled his team, the NASA operations manager.
15 minutes.
And all of them are go.
LC flight, channel 1 and air to ground 1 are now merged, going to air to ground 1.
Roger.
We'll send it back to the host desk.
LC flight, air to ground 1, ready for contact with Starliner on channel 1.
Roger. Starliner, LC, com check on channel 1.
Those are comm checks again.
LC, Starliner, loud and clear.
I have you loud and clear also.
And our astronauts, who you see there. Again, this is the test flight.
Houston, com check, air to ground 1.
Houston, Starliner, loud and clear.
Houston has you loud and clear on air to ground 1.
Test flight, and Boeing is working towards certification. To do that, there are a total of 87 flight test objectives and many more operational capability checkouts. So take a look at some of the main objectives with the crew on board. I'll go through a couple of them here. So they will demonstrate the performance of crew-related equipment. The crew will perform hatch operations and transfer emergency equipment. They will also evaluate the vehicle and transfer cargo while in a docked configuration. They'll conform functionality of manual piloting and deorbit with a successful separation of the crew module from the service module. And finally, they will demonstrate Starliner's entry and descent. 13 minutes and 24 seconds from only the 6th time NASA astronauts will launch on a new spacecraft designed for crew. And if you're curious about the previous 5 flights, we have you covered. Check out our video here. Mercury Redstone 3 was the first test flight. Alan Shepard, May 5th, 1961.
Gemini 3 with astronauts Gus Grissom and John Young launched March 23rd, 1965.
Apollo 7, October 11th, 1968, with Wally Schirra, Don Isley, and Walt Cunningham.
STS-1 launched with astronauts John Young and Robert Crippen, and it launched April 12th, 1981.
Starliner Houston, your suit fan Bravo is repowered. It looks good. Please close your visors. Column closed.
We saw a video there of Demo 2, May 2020, Doug Hurley, Bob Benkin.
And then, of course, today's NASA's and Boeing's crew flight test with Butch Wilmore, and Sonny Williams.
You know, Mike, 12 minutes and 15 seconds to go. How are you feeling?
I am excited. I'm grateful to ULA and Boeing and NASA team that we are sharing this historic moment together. Go Starliner.
Yeah, our hearts and well wishes are with Butch and Sonny as they make history testing what is poised to be the second commercial crew vehicle that is certified to ferry people to and from the International Space Station. So with 11 minutes and 46 seconds to go, let's send it back over to ULA's Dylan Rice and Boeing's Lauren Brennicke to walk us through the final moments of today's launch countdown. Let's do it, guys.
Let's do it, Megan. We just heard the Starliner readiness poll is a go. We know the crew's visors are down now, so we are moving along smoothly into the final 11 minutes and 30 seconds of this countdown. This is an instantaneous launch window today, which means that we will launch when the orbital path for the ISS aligns with the Space Coast. Once we get into orbit, Starliner will be working to catch up with the space station, eventually reaching speeds of more than 17,500 miles per hour. It'll take about 25 hours or so to get there. And we are going to be watching here any minute.
Minus 11 minutes.
For the crew access arm.
Control, so the crew access arm for launch.
Roger.
Right on cue. Crew access arm about to start moving away from the spacecraft. And Dylan, we will watch it move very slowly today, but it could move much faster if needed.
That's right, Lauren. It takes about 2 minutes to rotate the 120 degrees back away from Starliner to its stowed position and latched position on the crew access tower. Here we go. But we could, in the event of an emergency, redeploy it in less than 15 seconds.
It's amazing that it can do that. We hope to not have to ever see that happen. After liftoff today, Brandy and Jim will continue commentary from Houston through ascent, spacecraft separation, and the orbital insertion burn. We will have the shot of Butch and Sunny inside Starliner until the moment of launch, and then we will get it again when we get to the ISS.
-10 minutes.
Flight, verify CST 100 on internal power.
Verified.
Starliner, configure ordnance for launch.
Touch and win.
All right, the spacecraft is running completely on its own now. And they are configuring ordnance for launch. That means the devices that initiate our separation events are ready to support both nominal and contingency operations that, that happen or could happen during ascent.
So Lauren, we're just about 2.5 minutes now away from our terminal count status check. The terminal count status check is the final report from each operator indicating that their system, whether it be a ground control system or a launch vehicle system, is ready to execute the final 4 minutes of the countdown to launching the rocket. At this point, if there were an issue, the anomaly team would be discussing it, but nothing like that has happened right now. All's quiet. I am expecting to hear all members of the team report go when pulled by Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo.
And we're actually hearing on a side channel that they are preparing for the launch vehicle systems poll. This is the long one. A lot of people view this as their favorite poll. It's kind of fun to listen to them list off each system, and then that team will give a final go or no go for launch. And we will be able to watch cameras on the rocket today, and live telemetry feeding back will provide a real-time look at the spacecraft model when video isn't possible during the ascent as it moves through the dynamic phases.
-8 minutes.
Under 8 minutes before Butch and Sunny head back to a place they consider home. Both of them have spent 2 different stints of about 6 months on the International Space Station, and they are thrilled to be going back for a 3rd time. Sunny told me she even cried the last time she left the space station because she didn't know if she would ever go back. So this flight is a dream for her.
LC arm control.
Go ahead.
True axis arms stowed for launch.
Roger. LC switch to ready position. All steps are complete prior to status check.
Let's listen in to Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo conduct that final terminal count status check as we prepare for launch.
-7 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Has gas.
Go.
Electrical systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
GCQ.
Go.
Op support.
Go.
COM.
Go.
Umbilicals.
Go.
Arm control.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
Go.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Flight director.
Houston flight is go.
Starliner.
Starliner, go.
Launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC, verify T0 is set for 14:52:15 Zulu.
Verified.
Starliner, net is clear.
Thank you, LC. For everybody listening, just a thought. Sonny and I, as we were traveling to the pad, we saw many American flags, and many of you were waving flags at us. And then as we reached the pad, we look up, and of course there's that American flag on the side of the white room. Also one on the side of the rocket itself. And we know that that represents unity and resilience and unified efforts for the common good. And that's what Sonny and I have witnessed this last month. Each of you displaying what this nation's forefathers envisioned, a people committed to God, family, and country, a people who use their gifts and talents for the common good, and are passionate and tough. And we all know that when the going gets tough, and it often does, the tough get going. And you have. And Sonny and I are honored to share this dream of spaceflight with each and every one of you. So with that, LC, let's get going. Now let's put some fire in this rocket, and let's push it to the heavens where all these tough Americans have prepared it to be.
Let's go, Calypso. Take us to space and back.
LC flight, Starliner configured for terminal count.
On my mark, the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark. 3:55.
Resumed for
Ground
on-time
power is enabled.
liftoff.
Just beautiful words from Butch there. No better example of unity on this planet than what happens at the International Space Station, where Butch and Sonny are headed in just 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
3:30.
Atlas hydraulics at flight press.
Atlas boosters hydraulic steering systems now pressurized for launch.
Starliner's LAS prop valves are configured for launch, the propulsion valves that need to be open in the case of an abort from the pad.
3 minutes.
Pressurizing Atlas tanks. Securing LO2 topping.
250. FTS internal.
Flight software is in ascent mode. It is now set for the uphill climb.
$159. Vehicle internal. 155. Launch sequencer start. 150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
Vehicle is now transferred to its onboard batteries, and topping is
140.
completed.
Launch enabled. 137. FTS armed. $120. OCU's armed. SCS count started. EDS ascent.
Starliner, last arm to auto.
Last arm auto.
Roger.
That call meaning if the emergency detection system on Atlas detects something.
Rock report range status.
Range green. 54. POP started.
It will trigger the launch abort system on Starliner and fire automatically. If that happened, the spacecraft would push itself away from the rocket a mile up and a mile out.
Atlas at flight press.
Centaur at flight press. 25.
Status check. Go Atlas. Go Centaur. Go Starliner. Godspeed, Butch and Sonny.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
Commander Butch Wilmer, they're calling down to Mission Control here in Houston that the spacecraft has begun rolling into the right attitude for its ascent, and the Guidance, Navigation, and Control Officer here in the room seeing good data on that.
Starliner passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces of air friction are highest, which in Sunny will shortly be passing through Mach 1, where the speed of sound.
You got a good throttle up.
Starliner and Atlas looking good with speeds and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
Good SRB burnout.
Good SRB.
Now that the fuel in the solid rocket boosters has been depleted, the Atlas main booster stage will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Good handle.
Good handle.
That call, good handle, from Capcom Joshua Kutrick, indicating that the crew now has the ability to initiate an abort manually if needed. All looking good so far. Now 2 minutes into Starliner's flight and coming up on the solid rocket booster jettison at the 2 minute and 40-second mark.
CLG and net, good trajectory.
CLG.
The solid rocket boosters have now been jettisoned after seeing Starliner through its first 90 seconds of flight. Team on the ground here confirming that it was a good jettison and that the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good. Now 3 minutes into today's flight.
Atlas booster now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Sunny, trying to limit that to around 3.5 times the force of gravity you would feel while on the ground.
Staging.
Here in the ground.
Decals open. You have sublimator act.
Decal sub-act. Decal. Great act.
Team on the ground reporting that they saw the ascent cover on top of Starliner that's been protecting the spacecraft's docking system through its climb into orbit. They saw that jettison as planned.
Staging was good. You have good control.
And now the second stage's 2 Centaur engines have ignited to continue pushing Starliner into space, fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The next milestone that we'll be watching for is the aeroskirt jettison.
Starliner, you had good booster performance. You're up to plus 31.
Plus 31.
Atlas Control reporting booster performance offset of 31 seconds of ISP, or specific impulse, relative to its design baseline of around 450.
All continuing to perform well, almost 7 minutes into today's flight.
Good Centaur.
Good Centaur.
Capcom Joshua Kutrick continuing to pass good news up to Starliner's crew. At last one reporting that the Centaur upper stage remains in good condition and is performing well, pushing them into orbit.
St. John's open.
St. John's.
Starliner is now entering its first guided abort range, where Starliner would direct itself towards a specific location in the event of abort. In this case, just off the coast of St. John's, the capital of the Canadian province of Newfoundland Labrador.
Starliner MECO converged 11:5 to 11:52. Good perf. You're at 34 to 36 seconds.
11:52. 34 seconds.
That call letting the crew know that the main engine cutoff, MECO, should happen just about on time, about 12 minutes into today's flight. Another good indication that Starliner's ascent is taking along exactly as expected. Main engine cutoff is a major milestone marking Starliner's arrival on orbit. Still got about 2.5 minutes until we get to that, with the spacecraft continuing to perform well, make its way towards orbit.
No action, Starliner, on the LCL. That's just the system coming up into controlling mode.
Outstanding. No action.
Once the main engine is cut off, the next step will be the launch vehicle separation. That's set to occur just short of 15 minutes after launch, when Starliner will separate from the rocket and fly free in space for the first time. Flight Dynamics officer reporting that at this point, Starliner could potentially make an abort landing off the coast of Ireland.
Get cooling.
And they're, again, all continuing well, so we're not expecting to need that abort.
As Starliner is rapidly approaching orbital velocity, the abort region is only available for just over 1 minute, where Starliner would just continue up to orbit after that.
Seconds, D'Amico.
Just 30 seconds to go. Now until main engine cutoff, marking Starliner's arrival on orbit.
Nominal MECO Starliner.
Nominal MECO.
And with that nominal MECO call, that's main engine cutoff. We've got good energy, meaning a good velocity for continuing to orbit, and a good plane, meaning Starliner's trajectory is aligned with the International Space Station for rendezvous tomorrow.
And with that, Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams returned to orbit. Individually, they are both extremely experienced astronauts.
14:52, 14:52.
14:52.
They're both very experienced astronauts with a combined total of 489 days in space between them. Starliner is also the third spacecraft that they've launched in. Both have traveled to the International Space Station via space shuttles and Soyuz and are now well on their way to repeating the journey via Starliner. It's also worth noting that Williams' role as pilot marks the first time that a woman has crewed a flight test of an orbital spacecraft.
Just a few seconds ago, you heard Capcom Joshua Kutrick calling up to Butch and Sunny. With the expected time, Starliner will separate from Centaur at about 14 minutes, 52 seconds into flight, just under 2 minutes from now, or 1 minute from now.
That is actually the last major milestone for Starliner's ascent. All the hard work is done, but we need for Starliner to be flying on its own before it can begin heading towards the International Space Station. There's a slight pause in the action here while Centaur repressurizes and does some attitude control. We'll get into the right orientation to send Centaur on its way and then jettison it and move into the right orientation for the orbital insertion burn, which will come about 31 minutes into flight.
No action on the cabin temp Starliner.
No action.
And about 10 seconds until an expected launch vehicle separation.
LVSEP confirmed.
Good LVSEP.
And now that Starliner has separated from this Centaur upper stage, we have a big thank you to our partners at ULA, providing Butch and Sunny a smooth ride to space.
That is not the end of today's orbit activity, though. The team will now be getting ready for the orbital insertion burn, which comes 31 minutes after flight. So that's still about 15 minutes away now. Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore will be getting their tablets out and doing a few other activities to get Starliner ready for that. And that will be one of the, that will be the first in a series of burns that will set Starliner on its way to the International Space Station. Once again, Starliner with astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams on board launched from Florida, the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Launch Pad 41 at 9:52 a.m. Central, 10:52 a.m. Eastern today, and they have now made it into orbit.
Your nominal TDRS show MDL is active. You have good targeting for OI.
Good targeting.
With the call for good targeting and information about Starliner's TDRS schedule being good, means that we've got good communication with the ground. TDRS is the tracking relay data satellites that Starliner uses to talk to the ground, and the flight controllers on the ground are seeing the dynamic.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you could relay a message to our brethren at ULA.
We're all listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, they've been a member of the family for a long time, but now it's official, and we want to welcome them to human spaceflight.
We have copy all and really appreciate the words.
And Houston Starliner, we are on the tablets and in insertion monitor.
Copy tablets, we're with you, insertion monitor.
So the crew have their tablets out, so no longer using the paper procedures now that the vehicle has stopped moving so quickly. So there's a handful of things that the crew's going to do now, mostly just prepare the inside of the cockpit, so they are looking at the right data to prepare for the upcoming orbital insertion burn. The vehicle itself has done a few things recently. Started to power on the solar arrays on the back of Starliner and turning off several of the thrusters that are no longer needed at this phase of flight. Upcoming in about 4 minutes, Starliner is going to start to orient itself in the direction it needs to do the orbital insertion burn. And the crew inside the vehicle will be turning the wireless access point on and allow them to stream some of the data from the spacecraft onto their procedure tablets.
And Houston Starliner, last arm is off. Backup control switches, enable 1 on, enable 2 off. SM RCS is the mode.
We copy off. Enable 1 is on. Enable 2 is off. SMRCS, you're in a good config.
Good config.
Your EXDV targets are on board and good.
Good EXDV.
Things will be pretty quiet as Starliner gets into position for the orbital insertion burn. That's still about 10 minutes away. Starliner is actually designed to be pretty autonomous and, in fact, docked with the space station on its last trip around without the help of any crew on board. But we do still want to know that if needed, Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams could take control and manually abort the spacecraft's approach to the station if they needed to. So to prove that, one of the few things on their agenda after they reach orbit will be to perform a test of the manual piloting mode.
This test will involve first pointing Starliner's nose towards the Earth so that its communication antenna on the back of the service module is pointed at the satellites, the teeter satellites that allow it to communicate with the team on the ground. They'll then move Starliner so that its solar arrays are pointed at the sun, showing they could charge Starliner's internal batteries as needed. And they'll follow that up with a demonstration of the star trackers, one of the ways that Starliner determines where it is in space, pointing Starliner away from Earth so that the system, the Vesta system, can get a good look at the stars.
The next step will be for the crew to manually speed Starliner up and then slow back down, which will slightly raise and then lower their orbit and prove that they could manually break away from the orbit that the space station is in if they needed to. At that point, they can move on to the last items of the
still no
test.
action on your cabin temp. You're in a good config. It's 74 degrees in there. Yeah, and that's just due to that T2 sensor sitting beside the light. So we're actually going to inhibit that particular sensor. We'll let you know when we bring it back online.
Okay, great. Looks like we're on our way to thrust align.
Denver.
Josh Kutrick calling up that the crew can ignore some alarms they're seeing on the temperatures inside Starliner. That's just a result of one of the sensors being next to a light that's causing it to show higher than it actually is. But it sounds like the crew are pretty comfortable and are getting into place for that orbital insertion. As I was saying, after they have manually broken away from the orbit of, proven that they can manually break away from the orbit of the space station, they are going to move on to the last items of their test for tonight. That's manually moving Starliner into the right orientation for re-entering the atmosphere, and then moving back into the attitude that will let them soak up some sun with the solar arrays and try a different method of manually charging the spacecraft's batteries. But again, once that all has to wait until after the orbital insertion burn. This is, again, the first of several burns that will put Starliner on its way to the International Space Station. We've still got about 6.5 minutes until we fire up the engines for that burn.
Starliner, we did not see the hand controller deflection. Just wanted to know if you did that yet.
No, we'll get it now.
All good.